Escape the 9 to 5 and create your path to freedom. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. And today's video blog post is really inspired by this big question. How do we live happier, healthier, and more meaningful lives sooner than later? I'm Lydia Lee, the corporate escape coach at Screw the Cubicle, and this is one of the big questions that a lot of my clients, and even myself included when I was escaping the cubicle many moons ago, of how can we not wait until the age of retirement? What we're told at 65 years old is sort of when we can have the financial freedom, the lifestyle freedom, and the autonomy that we really, really want in our lives. Now, it's not easy to stop keeping up with the Joneses, right? Because in society, we've been told that buying that house, having more things, and making more money equals a successful, happy life. But maybe if you're like me, you're starting to question that status quo. So today I want to talk about a concept, something that really changed my own personal life from the day that I decided to quit my job to a big practice that I include and adopt in my current lifestyle choices right now. And this is about the practice and the principles of minimalism. Now, before you turn that video off and go, holy shit, she's going to tell me to be some hippie living in a hut or a tree somewhere in the jungle, just give me a second to tell you a little bit about these principles that actually may not have you throwing away all the things that you think you like to have in your life, but actually just to be a bit more conscious in the way that you might decide on what you value and what's important in your life. Let me tell you what I mean. So what is a minimalistic lifestyle? So like I said, you don't have to be a hippie or the next Marie Kondo, right, to have a minimalistic lifestyle. What you have to do is to understand what you're consciously spending your money on, how you're consuming in your life, and making sure that things that you have and you value to buy with your hard-earned cash is something that is leading you to a life experience that you want to have. So a really great definition of minimalism is by the two guys I follow that have a great podcast called The Minimalist. And this is Josh and Ryan from that podcast. And they define it as saying minimalism is a tool to rid yourself of life's excess in favor of focusing on what's important so that you can find happiness, fulfillment, and freedom. So whatever your goal may be, it could be quitting your job and starting a business and making sure you have the financial support to do that, right? Or saving money to travel the world and live nomadically, or saving up for starting a family. You do need to have money, right? And the power of money to leverage in order to achieve those goals. Now, the scary statistic is that about, I think, 54% of Americans spend more than they make, which is crazy and also a reality. Because when I remembered my own lifestyle of spending, I'm the girl that uses pay bills online, covering that total in my bank account, not wanting to own up or be accountable to my own financial game, which got me into debt. It got me into a place where I probably wanted to do a lot of things like quit my job a lot earlier than I anticipated, but wasn't able to do so because I didn't have a great financial backing to support those goals. So one of the things that I have learned from the days of quitting my own six-figure job many, many years ago to even living a lifestyle of what I'm doing right now, living in Bali, right, having a much more simpler lifestyle, is really allowed me to have more opportunities to open the door up to bigger realities, better possibilities, where I'm not paying a majority of my salary, my earning potential towards things like mortgages, right? Big rent payments. It's no surprise I've moved over to Bali, and build a financial security, right? A financial cushion pot for myself, for my own pension. Maybe I want to retire early, but all of those things I really had to take on as my responsibility and really learn how to do this. Now, the first step of adopting a minimalistic lifestyle is, first of all, simplifying your life, right? That decluttering of things you no longer need, and maybe even selling some of those things, right? So that you can save that money and budget for a life experience that you really want to have. Now, I was just listening to Grant Sebastier, which is the author of Financial Freedom, which is a great book to pick up. I'm picking that up to read very, very soon. And he was on the Unmistakable Creative podcast with Srini Rao. also an excellent influencer I follow. And he says, something along the lines of like, every dollar I save today buys me my freedom of time in the future. But we sort of need to know what we're going to be utilizing that freedom of time for. Right? For me, it's about not wanting to work 40 hours a week so that I can actually raise a family and be there for my family when I have one. And so learning to not be attached to possessions and assets really allows me to be mobile and allows me to be free to then fill my life with things that really matter. So I want to share with you some of the things that I did to build financial security for myself, but also declutter my life and save up money for my escape plan. And it's very, very simple. So the first thing I did when I was quitting my job and saving up money was questioning for every purchase that I would spend shopping, right? It's not to say not to shop, but when I did shop and when I did buy things, I would ask myself this question: is this purchase or this investment I'm about to make helping me get to this life experience that I want to have? And it should be a distinct yes or no. If it just feels like a luxurious thing to do right now, not a need to have, but a nice to have, is something that I would then take a pause on, right? But if it was something that I wanted to invest in, like a coach or my therapist to help me feel better, right, about what I'm about to do, right, as a big goal, this might be something worthwhile and valuable for me to spend on. I also did a whole 90 days of decluttering my life, which is to go around my house and take stock of all the things that I actually was using on a daily basis and things that just was left there gathering dust, like the 2 printers I ended up selling and a bunch of clothes that I no longer needed because I was actually transitioning out of the cubicle at the time, and actually having a garage sale every single weekend, posted it up on Craigslist, posted it up on my Facebook, and I had a complete open house, put price tags on everything, and made about $6,500 around that to be able to use that money to fund my own escape plan. So maybe there's something that you can do to start simplifying your life and thinking consciously about what you own, right? What you're willing to spend on is something you can do just like I did. Maybe not next 90 days, but maybe the next 30 days to hold a little open house garage sale in your house and be blessed with some of that money being saved for whatever your goals may be. So if you're looking for creative ways to own your money, save some money, right? Budget for your escape plan. Use some of my ideas on how I gained some money to be able to save up for feeling safe to take my own leap. I'm going to provide you with a free workbook that you can gain some of these ideas and start planning out ways to simplify your life with money. And that's called Own Your Money Workbook. And you'll be able to download it just right underneath this video post and get that started for yourself and feel better about the financial cushion that you can reserve for your escape plan. So when you can declutter your life, simplify your life, and think consciously about what you're consuming and what you own in your life, you're going to have less stuff. And less stuff means you have more mobility. And perhaps more mobility could also mean that you could have more freedom. So one of the things that I've adopted as part of my minimalistic lifestyle choices as well is the art of being location independent, or geo arbitrage, which is another term that people have used or have researched online. Now, the idea of having a location independent life is not being attached to particular expensive cities. You know, I'm from Vancouver originally. It's one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in, which was costing me quite a lot of money every single month to be able to fund my very basic lifestyle in the city. So one of the things that I experimented with was taking off 6 months after I quit my job, when I settled in on my consulting work, settled in on a freelance project. I decided to take 6 months off and actually go explore Southeast Asia, right? It was just an idea to sort of go, what would it feel like to live somewhere different? Now, what are the benefits of living abroad and living in a different city than the one that you're living in? Right? Rethinking where you're living can really help you to, again, gain time and space. If you don't have to work as hard, right, in maintaining a particular income just to pay rent or a mortgage or an expensive cost in an expensive city, you will have a lot more time and space to actually launch a business in a sustainable way, to take on clients that you actually really like instead of things that people that you may not want to work with just in order to pay the bills. Ultimately, it just creates a lot more freedom when you don't have to have high cost of living. So if you go to a website called nomadlist.io, I'll provide the link if you're on my video blog page. And this is a place that I started in as well, to think about cities, to look up cities that can give me a better quality of life, that has resources and spaces and people and communities that were already structured for people like digital nomads, remote workers, or nomadic families. There are so many places out there like that I would encourage you to just research and maybe take a 90-day sabbatical or your next vacation to go and check out some of these places in order to learn more about how you can cut your cost of living. Now, one of the things that I've really benefited from is to continue to earn a living in US dollars, to live on rupiahs, which is the Balinese currency in Bali, or Indonesian currency, I should say, and to be able to outsource and build small teams with contractors and teams in places like the Philippines, right, where I could actually build a team a lot faster because the lower cost of the outsource fees. Right? And again, having a remote team, having a remote business has allowed me to keep more of my hard-earned money that I'm making every month in order to put money aside for my pension, for investments in my business, right? For personal lifestyle choices that I really, really want to have. So take a chance in taking a look at some of these research spaces. And again, if you're in my video blog page, I'm going to give you some of my top 5 cities that I visited that you can start experimenting with as potentially your next location that can help you have a higher quality of life with a lot less cost. So I hope some of this insight in this video has encouraged you to think about minimalism as a way of living, right? Of decluttering whatever it is that feels heavy in your life. And sometimes that is a full-time job. Sometimes that is owning a bunch of stuff. And have a think about what are the life experiences that we really want to have, and how can we take a look at our possessions, our choices, how we make the money that we're making today that is either leading us to a lifestyle that we want to have or we do not want to have. So if you have any questions about how you can start doing this today for yourself, I would love for you to jump onto the video blog post directly on my website and shoot me a comment. What part of minimalism, the practices of simplifying your life, or the idea of being location independent as a minimalistic way of life really resonated with you today? And how can I help you get started with that journey for yourself? Now, I've got tons of free resources over at my website, but again, if you comment and reply to me, I will personally pick the right free resources that you can start with and reply to you personally so that I can support your journey of screwing the cubicle. Thank you so very much for joining me today for this video blog, and I'll see you in the next one.
Have you been desiring to create a life and career that gives you the freedom that you deserve, but you're not quite sure where to start? Well, let me be the guide to help you quit that job that's crushing your soul, discover your strengths, and make money doing something that you love and will care about. Head over to screwthecubicle.com to find tools and resources I've created just for you to help you jumpstart your escape plan from your 9-to-5 and launch a business you can run from anywhere.
The world today is one full of clutter and distraction. No matter how you look at it or where you are, there is always something vying for your attention, and for many, this can make life stressful and overwhelming. Therefore, in this video, we look at 5 reasons to consider minimalism. Number 1. Less chores. Minimalism is about reducing the number of unnecessary things you have in your life for your physical and mental well-being. One obvious factor of this is that having a minimalist lifestyle will mean you own less things in your home. By having less things, you'll reduce the amount of time you spend doing chores, in particular cleaning your home, as you'll have less objects to clean with more open spaces, making it quicker and significantly easier to keep a clean home. Number 2. Save money. We have a tendency to feel the need to own a lot of objects in our home, especially in a world where we're so dependent on technology. Many of these offer features that are attractive and desirable, meaning people will want to own the latest gadgets and devices. This can lead to frequent purchasing to keep up with the latest products, which can be expensive. However, with the minimalist lifestyle, you wouldn't be looking to buy things that aren't necessary, meaning you can save a significant portion of your income. Number 3. Get more time. Part of the challenge we have in our day is to find time for everything we want to do in our day. This process can be quite stressful, as you feel you are always up against the clock, as you have so many distractions taking up your time in the day. Alternatively, it can also make you feel bad if you spend time doing an activity of little perceived value, as you feel you've wasted time. Again, minimalism can help here, as you spend your time in the day more productively, as you have less distractions taking up the time. Number 4. Live more meaningfully. One of the key tenets of minimalism is to focus on a more meaningful, even spiritual, lifestyle rather than one dominated by material possession. This means rather than focusing on the latest clothes sale or the latest phone on the market, you can spend time reflecting on what is most important to you, which might be your own personal growth, doing something of value and importance in society, or finding greater meaning in what you believe about your life. The key is, minimalism helps detach you from what gives you very short-lived joy in life, to focus on what will make you feel a greater sense of fulfillment instead. Number 5. Less stress. As mentioned multiple times already, with all of the potential distractions in our lives, it can be extremely stressful to live life in the modern world. Minimalism helps you take a step back, reflect on what your base needs are in your life in order to survive and live a fulfilled life, which in turn reduces the number of anxiety-causing objects that will cause you to feel anxious and stressed in your day. So try minimalism, as what you might find is it's actually invaluable for your well-being, helping you to focus on what's truly important. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe as we help you live life on your terms. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to ensure YouTube notifies you of the latest uploads.
Hey everybody, Rob Greenfield here, and this is everything I own. Everything I own is sitting on this table right here and fits into this one backpack. So today I'm going to show you what I own and share why I own these things and some lessons to go along with them. Now, when I say this is everything I own, I truly mean it. It means there's nothing stored in other places, nothing stored at family or friends, and I don't even actually have a bank account, a credit card, many other things. All of my money is also right here on this table. So this is literally everything I own, and it's about 43 possessions. My net worth right now is about $5,500, $6,000. There's $5,000 in this envelope, and then everything here is worth substantially less than $1,000. So this is it, and I'm going to show you the different things. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my clothes. First, I'm wearing two articles of clothing. I have my shorts and I have my shirt on. Along with that, I have 4 more shirts, all the same, except one of them is long sleeve, the other 4 are short sleeve. These are bamboo cotton blend. One of my goals is to be basically biodegradable. My goals is that when I die, hopefully, if I can be in the woods or out on the ocean, and if I fall into the ocean or I die in the woods, I just simply return to the earth, rather than littering as I die by wearing plastic clothing. So one of my goals is really for almost everything that I own to be biodegradable, to be a single or a few simple ingredients straight from the earth. Bamboo and cotton is one example of that. My sweater is a wool sweater, thrift store, I think $10, $11. So that's my main source of warmth. I have 2 pairs of underwear, which are plastic, not natural fibers. A second pair of shorts, also plastic. I have a pair of socks, and these socks are actually my Boy Scout socks from when I was in high school or middle school. So these are 20 years old, possibly? No, 15 years old. My clothes fit into this little cotton bag, so this is my clothes bag. I don't think the sweater would fit in here, but everything else fits into there. And that's it for clothes. So one thing to point out, I'm in a warm climate right now. I lived in Florida before while I was doing my year of growing and foraging all my food. So I designed my life to be where I am. I don't design my life to be in a cold climate because I'm not in a cold climate. Wherever you are, you have to do things that make sense, apply common sense, critical thinking, problem solving to wherever you are. So, for example, a month from now I will be in Western Europe, I'll be in Germany where it's going to be cold, so I'm going to have to get some warm clothes. So right now I own 43 possessions, but that will fluctuate. My goal is one day to have no possessions, so 43 less possessions, and at times I'm going to have more possessions. When I'm on tour in Europe, speaking, maybe it'll be doubled to 80 possessions. We'll see. But the point is that wherever you are, whatever climate you're in, you have to adapt to that climate. So my other item of clothing, as you could say, is my sandals. Very simple. I'm mostly barefoot. I try to be barefoot as much as I possibly can, which is a vast majority of the time. And these provide very simple cover to my feet. And these are the soles, but our feet naturally have soles. They're called calluses. And I won't go too deep into that, but to sum it up, I believe that the human body was designed over tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years to really work. So all I do is I believe that my feet work. It's actually not that crazy. So let's see, what do I want to show next? Okay. So I have a little towel if I have a cold. This works as a towel for that. A handkerchief. I use this for washing dishes and things like that. So multi-purpose. One of the keys is for things to be usable for many functions. A lot of the things that I have maybe it's one possession, but I can use it in many different ways. This is probably one of the great possessions that I have. And this is my pot, and it's my bowl, and it's my to-go container. It's what I can put my leftovers in. So a lot of people who are striving for zero waste, they'll carry a reusable bowl. This is basically that, except it's also a pot, so that when I'm traveling, if I'm somewhere where there is no pot or pan, I can cook, and I can also cook over a fire with it. I wash this with steel wool, so it keeps it really shiny, but I've been using this for, I'm not sure how long, but probably 5 to 10 years. It's one of my oldest possessions right now. So this is a really important possession in my life. And when I say important, not a single thing here is irreplaceable. I actually don't own a single thing that is sentimental. Every single thing here has a purpose and has value to me in the sense that it allows me to live out things that I'm trying to do, but there is actually not a single item here that is sentimental. If I lost all of this tomorrow, there'd be some issues I'd have to deal with, but it would have no sentimental aspect to it. So another thing that I have is a reusable, this is rather than disposable bottles, carrying this. A reusable water bottle. It's also a thermos, so I can carry hot beverages or soup. So this is my cup wherever I go. One important possession. I often just have a simple glass jar too, which is better. But actually, I got this because someone lost it and I found it, and there was no owner to claim it. So that's why I have this. But usually I just have a jar, a mason jar. Another eating utensil, spoon. Sometimes I have a spoon and a fork. You don't need awesome bamboo forks and spoons. They're cool, but go to a thrift store, 25 cents, or open your drawer. You have spoons and forks to travel with already. Normally one of my possessions is a Leatherman, a multi-tool, but I don't have that because this year I'm traveling using planes and everything's carry-on, so I can't carry a knife. Otherwise that would absolutely be one of my key possessions. So next I will show, this is a reusable bag as well. I keep using the word reusable, of course it's reusable, but what I mean is for a lot of people who are getting plastic bags at the store, you can use a reusable shopping bag. Now this can be used for grocery shopping, for this is basically like my day pack, so that I don't have to take everything out of here. I have this small pack that I can carry as well. Both of these backpacks were given to me by a friend who gets backpacks that are going to be thrown away, and he repurposes them and makes things out of them, and instead I actually took these because they're still good. So I have my computer, and computers can be expensive. This would be my most expensive item, but I buy them used on Craigslist. So this was, I think, about $300. It's a 2014, so it's 6 years old. And so if I break this or it gets stolen, then I just need about $300 to get another used one of these. So there's the charger to go with that. I'm counting the charger and the computer as one possession at the advisement of many of my friends who say that is one possession. But if you want to call it two, you know, the 43 is a little bit subjective. You can decide what you want. I'm going to show you one possession, my earplugs to help me with sleeping. There's 6 pairs in there. I'm going to call it one. Part of me wants to call it 6. So you could say I have anywhere between, depending on how you do it, you could say I have between 30 and 70 possessions, just depending on how you want to count it. And then my earplugs. So these are, or headphones, this is at this moment literally the only electronic items that I own. This is it. I usually have a headlamp as well, but right now I'm not carrying a headlamp because I'm really enjoying the simplicity of this being the only electronic items that I own. This is a little cotton bag that I put my headphones and the charger in, and that is another possession. So I've got my notebook, which is an important possession for me. I do a lot of writing, and I try to minimize my time on technology on the computer. So this notebook is a great tool for me to be able to write by hand rather than on the computer. My goal is to move away from technology as much as I possibly can. But so lots in here. I have my to-do lists and things like that in there. So got this at a thrift store. I think it was $1.10, which is a little expensive for a notebook actually. Let's see. Reading, my goal is to generally be carrying one book at a time. Right now I'm reading The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite books. I'm reading it again. You can see in here just all these earmarks. There's just so much I'm learning from here, so much important information. And then I have my bookmark. This is a postcard of Gandhi that I got at the Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta 4 years ago, and I keep this with me. Just a nice remembrance of someone that I love very much. I also, one thing I didn't count as a possession is on my computer. I always forget about this possession. It's a bumper sticker that says we must be the change that we wish to see in the world. And technically that's a possession. So I guess I'm up to 44. I always forget about that one. 44? Actually, that's a great number. Thanks, Gandhi. Okay, so a couple other things. Let's see. I'm going to go into my hygiene now. For me, I practice a very simple hygiene. I think that this body functions. Just like I think my feet function, I think my body functions. I don't believe Old Spice. I don't believe that I'm better off because of it, and I don't believe that I need it in order to be an important member of society. So I haven't used deodorant for about 8 years now, and I hug thousands of people a year, and sometimes I smell a little bit, but I also think a little bit of smell is just fine. So I won't go super deep into that, but all of my personal hygiene items are on this table. I've very much simplified it. Again, as a man with very little hair, it's different than as a woman or a man with long, flowing, beautiful hair. So everybody's different. But the point is that there's so many ways we can reduce. Do we need suave, in order to be contributing members to society? I don't think so, whether we have long hair or short hair. And there's plenty of women out there who are examples of that, who have said, I don't need that system, I can stand outside of it as well. So we'll start with hair, actually. How do I cut my hair? So as I said, I try to use as few electronic items as possible. So I've got this old school vintage handheld buzzer. So how it works is I squeeze it, and then there's blades here, and then it cuts my hair. So I can do it as super short, but I actually took a plastic piece from a newer one, and that's how it works. It just squeezes just like that. And I will have a video on my channel about that, the off-the-grid zero waste haircut. So that is a pretty sweet thing. I think this is about 50 years old. I can't find I don't think they're made anymore. You can only get vintage ones, and I got this online. And that goes inside of this bag. So that's another possession in the bag, which is hemp, I believe. So I also have these little scissors. These come in handy so much. Since I don't have my multi-tool anymore, these are probably one of my most commonly used possessions. I use it for trimming, the beard, the ears, the hairline. But I use it for so many different things. Just when I'm repairing things, repairing my clothes, things like that. So really great. Also grabbed this from my mom's house. She had like 3 or 4 of them, so I asked if I could have one of these pairs of scissors. So nice little memory of my mom. Hi Mom, I love you. So one of the ways that I use this is for my dental floss. So my dental floss doesn't have a plastic container surrounding it. Instead, it's just this little roll, and then I just cut it with the scissors. And now what's really great about this dental floss is this is made out of silk. So this is not plastic, and this goes right into the compost pile as well. So there's very few ways that I create trash. I minimize the number of ways that I create trash, and you'll see that is a big part of the possessions that I own. Alternative to it, but for now I'm sticking to this plastic, and to be honest, I don't feel bad about that. I'm not trying to be perfect, I'm just trying to do a really good job, and I think I'm doing pretty good, so I'm happy. So that's the toothbrush. For toothpaste, I also buy my toothpaste. I buy a brand called Jason Power Smile, not because I have any connection to them, just because I've been using it for 5 years and I really love it. It's great, I love it. But what I do is I take it out and I put it into a glass jar for multiple reasons. I buy it in 6 ounces. I'm traveling right now and you can't carry a 6-ounce thing. And then also because plastic, when it heats and cools, can release the plastic, and this way it's in glass for its life. So this is another one of those luxuries of life that I am sticking to. I could definitely make my own toothpaste. A lot of people do it and they like it. I have made it, but it didn't beat this for me. I have my essential oil. This is something that I buy, and I generally have lavender or a blend that is very soothing. And that's what this is, and I use this to help myself relax, so often before sleep, but throughout the day, especially if I'm in stressful scenarios. Just being able to smell this really is so helpful. This is a very important natural medicine for me. And the other essential oil that I'm often carrying is tea tree, which is an antimicrobial that I use as a disinfectant, and that's the other one that I'm usually carrying. But for now, I'm keeping life the simplest I've ever had it at 44 possessions, and so I just have the one essential oil. I have a moisturizer, basically you could call it a body butter. This is also store-bought. I have friends who make this, would love some their friend makes, but right now I have a store-bought one for moisturization, keeping myself young, taking care of the skin, and that's all natural, biodegradable. And speaking of biodegradable, my soap. So most people a lot of the people that I visit use toxic soap, toxic cleaning products. So I like to carry my own soap. This is pretty much just for washing my hands and my dishes. I actually don't almost ever use soap on my body because our body has a naturally functioning system with trillions of bacteria that are living in harmony with our skin, And a lot of our soaps and our products actually destroy that and make us dependent upon that. But my body really functions without that. I've been living without soap on my body for, again, about 8 years, 7 years-ish. But I do use it for dishes and for the hands, and it's biodegradable, it's plant-based, so this is gray water friendly, so this can go onto the plants rather than going to a wastewater treatment plant. I have earplugs, which I use for sleeping or when I'm traveling, for leaf blowers and lawnmowers and things like that. So those actually really improve my quality of life. It helps me get good sleep. I would love to exist completely without these, but I had to tricky one. I get much better sleep with these. I have my fingernail clippers. And so that's it for natural hygiene. This is this little bit right here, and it all fits into this this natural fiber bag. So natural hygiene is mostly from the sun, from the water, from the elements of the earth, from eating good food. So speaking of food, I carry tea with me. I'd like to have tea every morning and every night, a nice morning tea and an evening tea. This is chamomile. I really like to have that to just relax me at night. And I have this was a tea ball, but I lost half, so I just strain it. I make the tea in a pot, and then I just pour it through this to get the tea without the chunks in it. Some people, like my friend Kathy, they just love the chunks in their tea. I like a nice smooth tea with no chunks. So last but not least, I have my identification. So I have my passport here. I still travel internationally, so this is a very important possession for me. I don't have a driver's license. I don't have a social security card. I do have a birth certificate. So these are my only two forms of identification. So that means I don't need a wallet. I don't have all these like bonus cards and things like that. For me, if I had a wallet and it had 100 different cards in it, that would be 100 different possessions. But I don't have a wallet, I don't have any of those things. I got rid of all those things over the years. So these are my two forms of ID. The reason that I have these is because with these two forms of ID, I could get other ones if I decide to. I got rid of all the other ones about 5 years ago-ish. So my two forms of ID, my dream is to one day, again, literally have nothing including this, which would mean no longer being able to legally leave the country. There's ways around that. Maybe. I have no experience with it, but I know there is. I believe that we are all human beings of this earth, first and foremost. The borders come second to that. Lastly, my most valuable possession is my money. Although I don't actually own this, technically the government owns the money, it's not my property. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So that wasn't the exact words I was looking for, but I don't actually technically own this, but I do own this envelope, which I took out of the garbage can. So I'm counting this as one possession. So I have about $5,000, and I make the little bit of money that I make from public speaking. For all of 2020, I'm actually not making any money. This is going to get me through the entire year. 100% of my speaking honorariums for 2020 are donated to Indigenous and women-led environmental nonprofits. So I literally mean this is all of my money. I have no bank account, no credit card, I have no savings account, I have no retirement fund, no Roth IRAs or mutual funds. I have no debt that I owe to anyone else, and no debt is owed to me. So this is my financial life right here. And it's not a lot of money, but for me, this is actually a substantial amount of money, and I am very comfortable with this. Now, you can look at this and say, okay, well, what this really is he's just dependent upon other people, dependent upon humanity. And yes, I am dependent on other people. I am dependent on humanity. Money makes it appear that we're not dependent on other people. But I believe that is just one big illusion. Every time you spend money, there's someone behind that. There's other creatures behind that. There's our world behind that. But we're able to remove ourselves from that and consider ourselves independent. But the reality is we're not independent. We are completely dependent on our global humanity. And that is what I've chosen to embrace through this way of life, is that I want to stand out against this idea of radical independence and stand for radical connection to humanity. That's what I'm trying to show here, actually, is that we are dependent upon each other and we absolutely do need to work together. At the same time, I think that it is important as individuals that we have skills, that we are resourceful, that we have common sense, that we critically think, and those are all things that I've established in myself. So I know how to take care of my body. I'm not asking other people to do that. I've learned how to be able to take care of a lot of my own needs, so there is that form of independence, but only with the complete embracement, I think that's a word, of the reality that I am completely dependent upon humanity, and so are every single one of you, even if you have your own Wi-Fi that you pay for, and your own cell phone that you pay for, and your own house. All of those things are all dependent on global humanity, working together, and all of the creatures that we depend on, and the environment, the earth that we depend on. So that's really, I'm trying to shake things up a little bit here. I am extreme. There's no question about that. The way that I do things is extreme, but I think that our current way of living, the United States has 5% of the world's population but uses 25% of the world's resources, that is extreme. So what I am is, I am a counterbalance to that extreme way of life. I only have to go this far because society has gone so far in the other direction, and that is why I'm extreme, so that I can stand out and get people thinking and get people questioning their own lives. So I am extreme, but I also wasn't always this way. I used to be really focused on material possessions and financial wealth. My goal was to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. I wonder what the 23-year-old me now would say to a guy who actually only has less than $6,000 as his full financial net worth. So I wasn't always this way. So it was a transition. In 2011, that's when I woke up. I lived in a 3-bedroom apartment at the time. I lived in the biggest bedroom because I had a lot of stuff. I moved to the smallest bedroom as I started to wake up and reduce the amount of stuff. I went from the smallest bedroom to living in the 6x6 closet of my tiny house, as well as having my friend park his camper in the driveway, and I stayed in the camper as well. After that, I was simplifying my life. I eventually got rid of that apartment and I moved into a tiny house, a 50 square foot tiny house in San Diego. At that time, when I moved in there, I was able to bike over with everything that I owned on a bike trailer, the bike pannier. So that was a big step for me. Then I lived for a year in a 50 square foot tiny house off the grid in San Diego. At that time, I think I had around 1,000 possessions. After that, I downsized to having just 111 possessions that all fit into my backpack, which I traveled with for about 2 years. So that was a bigger backpack than this, substantially bigger, about twice as big, 111 possessions. And then I moved to Orlando, and that's where I decided that I was going to grow and forage 100% of my food for a year. That meant drastically increasing my possessions to be able to be self-sufficient food-wise. I had a lot of possessions. Just the shovels and the rakes, and I built a 10 by 10 tiny house, so much bigger than the last one, and I filled it with a lot of stuff, mostly useful stuff, things that I could use for sustainability, for gardening and such. And then I left Orlando after 2 years there. I gave away the tiny house. I gave away most of my possessions, sold some of them, and then it took me months to downsize my life again. I left Orlando with a huge duffel bag that was so heavy it hurt my back. Eventually got that down to 80 possessions, and then a few weeks ago in Montreal, I was at a school speaking, and I turned that 80 possessions into 40 possessions. I gave away half of the things I owned that day to kids. I was leaving Montreal and coming to Costa Rica, where I didn't need my jacket and my pants, and I wanted to get rid of those things, as I'm going to be shifting only to natural fibers instead. So from 80 down to now 44, you can see there was a long transition. It was, to get to this point, the most minimalist I've been took from 2011, so 9 years. So it was a long transition process, and I know a lot of you might be overwhelmed with the idea of where you are today. With maybe you have a lot of stuff, maybe a 5-bedroom house full of stuff. But just remember that I was there in a similar situation 11 years ago, and it was a transition. So again, the way that I've done things is extreme, but you don't have to go that far. And I know a lot of you probably would like, you might be inspired. You might want to reduce the number of possessions you have. You might want to shrink the size of your house. You might want to live in a tiny house. You might want everything you own to fit in a backpack. So I've actually created another video for that, tips on how to downsize your life, that goes into that and shares my transition and gives you a lot of the tools and the guides on how to be able to do that. But just keep in mind, it's a process, and you don't have to go to this extreme by any means to drastically increase happiness and healthiness and be living in a way that is indeed more harmonious with the earth. And another thing for me is, this is life. Life is complicated, and I can't possibly go into all of the reasons behind this, but it's all based on a deeply thought out way of trying to live and examine life, live with my actions being in alignment with my beliefs. So for me, this is a practice of non-ownership and instead sharing and being a part of humanity. It's a practice of non-materialism, not focusing my life on what other people think about me based on material possessions or getting my health, getting my happiness from possessions. It is a practice of my impermanence, embracing that I am an impermanent person here for just a very short period of time, and understanding that's okay. The less that I have, the more okay I am with the fact that I am just one human among over 7 billion. And that's just one species among millions of species. And just embracing that I'm just here for a very short period of time and I'll be gone. And being okay with that. So non-materialism, non-attachment, non-ownership, and embracing my impermanence. So if you got a lot out of this video and you're inspired, then I would encourage you to subscribe if you aren't already, if this is your first time here. And if you think this is information that other people need, then let's help it get out there. Comment and like this. That's what YouTube loves. That's what helps it get into that algorithm. So let's spread this stuff. And then of course share it. Share it with friends and family that you think that this would be helpful for. Anyone who's been talking about this sort of thing, wanting it, share this as some information and some inspiration and practical information. So yeah, I love you all very much, and I hope to see you in real life one of these days and get a big hug. This year I had to renew my passport. In 2019 it was expired, and when you renew your passport they actually send you back your old passport. And this thing has some nostalgia. This thing, if I had a sentimental possession, this would be it. I mean, I've been all over with this. There's Bolivia, Belize, that was a great trip. Where is this? Peru, Mexico, Guatemala, seeing lots of, Cambodia. So this thing, you can see it's pretty large, a lot of amazing memories in here. And when I got this back, I thought, okay, now this is something that I want to keep. And many of you know that for a while I had literally just 111 possessions, all of which fit in my backpack. And then after that, I've lived in a tiny house in Orlando with almost no real material possessions there as well. So you know I don't really hold on to material possessions or sentimental things, but this actually gave me that feeling of something that I wanted to hold on to. But I really practice non-materialism and non-ownership and living in the present. So I decided I was gonna do something. And that is that I wasn't gonna keep this. Just as continuing that practice of not holding on to the past and living in the present. So I decided the thing that would make sense to do is just cut it up. But then, just last night, as I was planning this video, what I was gonna say, I thought about it and I thought, this actually doesn't make sense to cut up. Not because I'm gonna keep it though, because I don't want it. But I thought about my mom, and I thought about all the postcards that I sent her from these many countries and how much joy that brought her. And I thought of 10 years of those postcards and those conversations wrapped up in this passport. And I thought this would bring my mom a lot of joy. She would absolutely love to have this. So rather than cut it up, I'm gonna send it to my mom. And honestly, for me, the selfish thing to do would be to cut it up, because I'd rather just have it not exist. And I know that years down the road, I'm gonna see this again at my mom's house. So it won't be completely removed, but it will be no longer a possession of mine, and it's a possession that will bring value and happiness to my mom. So love you, Mom, and this is gonna be in the mail, coming your way. Basically, the meaning for my mom is much more meaningful to me. So that's where it's going. Now, the reason I'm making this video though is that I see this as a great opportunity to share something with you, to talk about simplifying your life, to talk about downsizing. I get, so many people that look at my life and they ask how they can start to simplify, how they can start to free themselves from their huge amount of possessions that are tying them down. And I see it. I see that it's something that millions of people want right now, but they're stuck and they don't know how to start, and they don't know how to get to where they're trying to go. So I wanted to share my story a little bit, and at the same time give tips on what you can do to get started. So I grew up very low income in a house with, a very small house with my mom and 4 siblings. And because of that, I believe that I sort of had this thirst for material possessions. I wanted to fill the holes inside of me that existed because I thought of myself as poor and different from other people. I looked at my friends that were wealthier and I saw myself as lacking. So material possessions were my way to fill that. So I was a collector. I collected everything that you could collect. Cards, coins, pogs, action figures, rocks, stamps, and my biggest addiction really was Beanie Babies. I actually had over 700 Beanie Babies, and my mom had, I think, over 500. We were Beanie Baby addicts, major Beanie Baby collectors. And for a large portion of my life, I was very focused on material possessions because I saw them as a way to build myself up, to create a vision of who I was. That might have been through having a huge closet of clothes, it was through my car, it was through my material possessions, through financial wealth. But then something happened and I realized that that's not the life that I wanted to live anymore. I realized that those material possessions were not bringing me the health and the happiness and the purpose and the passion that I wanted, and that maybe my life could be better with less. And so one of the early things that I watched was actually the story of stuff. And I learned about the destruction that our stuff causes, from the extraction of the materials to make it, to the production of it, to the shipping of it, to the usage of it, to the trashing of it. And that was a big wake-up call to me, Just realizing that my stuff was destroying the world, and that it wasn't bringing me health and happiness, and that I was just buying into this corporate idea that I needed their things to be happy and healthy. So it was a wake up in many ways. Personal, environmental, truth, justice, equality. And that's when I decided I was going to start getting rid of stuff. Now, at the time though, I had a lot of possessions. I was living in a 3-bedroom apartment in San Diego, and I actually had the biggest room in the apartment because of my stuff. And there was the living room and the closet and the kitchen, and it was all stuff. So I had to figure out how to get rid of that, and that was a big task. And I really want to make it clear that where I am today and where I was in the past was not overnight. It was because of a lot of work. It was because I made it my full-time job to simplify my life and unravel the mess that I had gotten myself into over the last few decades, the last couple decades. So I started with an activity, and that was that the goal was to get rid of stuff that I didn't want, that added clutter to my life, that didn't add value. So what I did is I would go through my house and I would look at each item and I would say, does this bring value to my life? Is this making my life better? Or is this actually taking away time? Is it adding clutter, which makes the house harder to clean, so it takes more time to clean? Is it possibly costing me money through insurance or, constant updating? And if the answer was no, it doesn't bring me much value and it actually takes away from my life, then the answer was to get rid of it. So that was a big starting point. And the other question that I would ask is, have I used this in the last, say, 6 to 12 months? If it's not something I was getting use out of, then I could remove it from my life to make space for doing what I really wanted to do. So those are two really helpful questions to me that I would recommend to you. Now, what I did is that I would basically go through my house, say every 6 or 12 months, and I would do that exercise over and over and over a period of years. And so I would half my stuff and then half my stuff again. And a lot of the things that the last time around I wasn't able to get rid of, the next time that I was. So it was a transition. And slowly but surely I shrunk my possessions. I actually went from the biggest room to the smallest room. Then I moved into a 6x6 closet in my house and still had the living room and the kitchen. But as far as my possessions, I had the 6x6 closet as my room. Then I lived in the 50 square foot tiny house in San Diego. And then I got my life down to just 111 possessions that I traveled for 2 years with, all on my back or on my bicycle. So the point is, though, it took time. It was a transition. It's not something that I could do overnight. It's not something that you'll be able to do overnight. You have to start somewhere, and that could be with one item, and it's going to take time. For some people, it could take 5 or 10 years. For me, I was deep, but I wasn't as deep as many people with storage lockers and large houses. I had a 3-bedroom apartment, but no storage lockers and no garage. So it was easier for me, but still took years of detachment and getting rid of things. So all of these questions were basically like Marie Kondo's question, does this spark joy? But basically a little bit more practical, but going for the exact same essence, really, I think. Now I want to share some other things that I did to help get rid of stuff, and questions that I asked, and tips that you can use as well. So another thing when I was trying to get rid of things, I would ask myself is, can I rent this instead? If I'm not using it very often, can I rent it? For example, a surfboard. If I was only using a surfboard every couple months, could I just rent it instead so I didn't have to store it and have all that space? Or a car. Ultimately in 2012 I decided to get rid of my car, and that was a big step for me. But I did all the math and I was spending $7,000 a year on my car, and I realized if I just wanted to rent a car once a month, I could do that. So I could still use a car when needed by renting it. Even better than renting is sharing. Talking to your neighbors, getting connected to your neighbors, talking to your friends. maybe my friends at the time had a whole bunch of surfboards, so I didn't really need one since I wasn't going often. So it's about, you can rent the items and then sharing. And sharing can be with friends and family, but it can also be the bigger picture, the sharing economy. There's all sorts of websites, there's all sorts of ways to share resources with others. The library is a perfect example. You can rent tools. There's so many ways to rent or to share, and that's something that I would really recommend. Another way that I dealt with possessions, and that you can as well, is if there's something that you really like and you would like to continue using but rarely, is you can give it to a friend who would use it way more than you and who would get, a far better use out of it, and just ask them, hey, if I give you this, maybe it's a guitar, or maybe it's a high-powered kitchen, blender for the kitchen. If they would use it all the time and you would use it sometimes, you could say, hey, can I give you this, and could I borrow it from you once in a while? That's a great way to pass something on but still have access to something that you would need. Now, what about things that are extremely meaningful to you? I've had a lot of people ask me questions about sentimental items, how to get rid of those. And one guy asked me, he had a guitar for decades, and he loved that guitar and just could not see getting rid of it. So what I suggested to him is to find somebody with no guitar, who couldn't otherwise afford or access one, maybe a young developing youth, and give them that guitar, so that they can love it and they can appreciate it and they can get value out of it, much more value than it's sitting in his living room or in his closet. And in that way, this possession can bring you more joy by not having it, by knowing that somebody else has it. And even better, you can follow up with that person. I told him, follow up with that person and see the joy that it brings them. And if you want to go even further, go ahead and be selfless and purchase lessons for that person and actually help them develop with that guitar. So that's another way to deal with sentimental items, to give it to somebody where it brings more value and more sentiment to them, and that can bring you joy, and that possession can live on in your mind and in your legacy and not be clutter and not be something that you have to feel guilty about that's sitting around and not getting used. So a few other things that you can do. There's thrift stores, but I do want to have you keep in mind that with thrift stores, a lot of that stuff does get thrown away. The thrift store dumpsters are full of stuff. So, thrift stores are great, but just keep that in mind, that it doesn't necessarily mean it's not ending up in the garbage. And also that it's not creating problems. A lot of stuff that we donate, like our clothes, is shipped to other countries where it actually can cause problems. It can destroy local business opportunities and local businesses. So donating it is definitely a great option, but just keep that in mind, that there's some realities behind it. Another thing that you can do is you can have a giveaway party. So it takes a lot of work to get rid of things. What you can do is you can have a party for your friends and anyone in the community if you want, and you can have them over, and everything that you want to give away can be obvious, whether it's in one room of your house or labeled within the house, and have people come and they can take those things, which saves you a lot of work, makes a great, experience, and helps get those possessions to people that can use them. You can also sell possessions. That's a great way to get the money back. You could sell them on Craigslist, you can do eBay, you can do yard sales. There's all sorts of websites for selling possessions. So that's another thing you can do. You can also donate it, for example, to places like materials for the arts. So there's organizations that repurpose things to make costumes or to make art. So you can donate things to organizations like that. Get creative. There's so many ways to deal with the stuff, and it can actually be fun and it can be enjoyable to let go. But I do want to say, it is work. It's something you have to be intentional about, and it is definitely going to take work. A couple other things to mention: recycling. There's a lot of things that you can recycle, so getting rid of things that way through recycling. Some things are probably going to have to go in the trash. I don't feel bad. I didn't feel bad about having to put some things in the trash because honestly, whether it's sitting for 80 years in your house or it's sitting in a landfill, plastic containers for example, that can't be recycled or something, it doesn't really make a difference. It's all trash. Whether it's in your cabinets or it's in the landfill, a lot of it is garbage regardless. I'm not saying go out willy-nilly and just throw everything in the landfill, but there's some things that, you know, that putting things in the trash can make sense. Another little note on that side, I see people who, you know, they have all these plastic utensils or plastic cups in their drawers or their shelves because they got them eating out and then they want to use them over and over and over so that they get more use out of them. But they have perfectly good metal utensils and glass cups. It's delusional to think that using that plastic spoon 20 times is in any way beneficial to the environment when you have your reusable ones in the counter, there in the kitchen. It doesn't make any difference. You're not doing anything more environmentally friendly. So you can let go of those things. You don't have to hold on to them, filling your space with junk that really is a delusion to think that using it is making things better. All of those tips were on how to get rid of things. And the idea of getting rid of things isn't so that you have less. It's so that you have more. It's about making space to do the things that you love, to spend time with friends and family, to follow your passions and your purpose, to learn, to spend your time learning and immersing in the world. And for me, that's been the big thing. I've gained from having less. I haven't taken away from my life. I've added value to my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. So I want to talk a little bit about what you can do to prevent more stuff from coming into your life, because getting rid of things is only one part of it. It's easy to accrue more possessions. So when you're going to buy something, one thing you can do is you can ask, do I really need this or do I just want this? And is this just a passing feeling in the long run? You know, will I be fine without this? That's a basic question that you can ask in order to not accrue stuff. If the answer is, I don't really need it, then you can not buy it. Another thing you can do is you can be okay with saying no. Being okay with saying no to other people when they want to give you something. And just explain that, you know, you're trying to live a life with less possessions and more simply, and that you value them and you value their desire to give you something, but it's just not something that you need right now. Be soft, be gentle, and also explain that you can share experiences. If people want to give gifts, you can tell them that you'd rather have the experience of a dinner together or going to an event together or something like that. A big one is not having a car or driving the car a lot less, or if you're a multi-car family, having fewer cars. And one of the big things is when you don't have a car, you don't have a trunk. When you don't have a trunk, it's harder to buy things. If you ride your bike locally to the hardware store or to the grocery store or whatever it is, you don't have a trunk to fill up with stuff. So not having a car or driving the car a lot less is a great way to end up buying a lot less, to accumulating a lot less. Another great thing to do is buy quality items that are going to last, not things that are going to break and then you have, you know, them sitting around. So buying quality items. And then buying items that are multi-purposed, so things that can be used for many different ways. A multi-tool knife is a perfect example. It's got many tools on it, it's a small thing, but that can go to many different things, whether it's in your kitchen or your living room or your bedroom. Buying multi-purposed items that can be used in many ways. I mentioned earlier sharing, but I can't say that enough times. Just sharing things. Not everybody needs to have one of everything. In the neighborhood, if 10 people have a blender, but most of them are not using it very often, it's just completely unnecessary. So sharing with neighbors, a lawnmower is a perfect example of that. 10 houses could definitely share one lawnmower, which saves you a ton of money, a ton of storage space. You can split the costs also of maintenance and things like that. So sharing, as well as through the sharing economy, all the websites that exist, your public library, there's libraries of things, car share programs, bike share programs. Sharing is incredible. And then connecting with your community. One of the best things about all of this is that this is a way to actually get you more involved with your community, get you out of your house, get you more social, bring that value to your life through community. And again, none of this is about, it's not about suffering, it's not about living without, it's all about living in a way that we can live with our purpose, with our passion, with our actions in alignment with our beliefs. So my hopes is that, through this video, you've gotten some tips. There's a lot here, so I'm sure you now have what you need to get started, to get going. And remember, it's gonna take work, it's gonna take time, it's gonna take effort. There's gonna be times when maybe it's gonna make you cry and you're gonna feel down. It's gonna take work. But this video hopefully gives you those tools to get started, to inspire you and empower you, and now it's about starting that journey. So if you got a lot out of this video, if you got inspiration, you got some education, and you think that this is a video worth other people seeing, then I encourage you to share this video, share it with your friends that you want to help downsize. Like the video or click that thumbs up, that'll help get it out there across YouTube to other people. Comment, ask questions, I'll try to answer most of the questions, and that'll help spread it as well, and I can share some more information with you. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe if you want to see more of this. So it's been great sitting down with you and sharing how you can simplify your life to live with more. And I love you all very much, and see you soon.
All right, van life. Is it based or cringe? Mobile life, living in a car, is that stupid? Let's talk about that. So, I don't have an email that I printed out that I'm responding to in this video, but this is a question I get pretty often, so I figure I might as well knock them all out of the park in this one. A lot of people ask me, well, if I want to live self-sufficiently, or at least, no one's perfectly self-sufficient, but if I want to move more in that direction, is it a good idea to live in my car, in a camper, in, some kind of mobile thing? All right, I get that kind of question a lot. And I will tell you, when I was a kid, okay, when I was like a teenager or whatever, I was always thinking, my mindset has always been, how can I live using the least amount of money? Okay, that's always been, like, a lot of people are like, let me make a lot of money. I've always been like, how can I live in as little as possible? That's been my mindset, right? So I often thought about, hey, could I live in my car? Could I, not buy land? Could I not buy a house? Could I get by with that, just living in a car, or station wagon, or something like that, something with a little bit more room, okay? Now, and a lot of millennials love this. They're like, oh, dude, mobile life, this is so tiny houses, dude. Oh, this is so awesome. But the thing is, I think it's mostly kind of a, if you live like that at all, it's going to be a very brief phase, I'll just tell you that. And it'll end up being a phase much more expensive than you think. Now, if you want to live a more or less self-sufficient lifestyle, it's impossible to do it on the road. It's impossible to do it in any kind of van or anything like that. You can't have a normal life. You can't have, a set place that you live. If you're doing that already, you might as well just, build a house that's cheap or something like that. The way I think of it is, like, when you are living mobily, when you're living in a car or a van or something like that, a single car accident could lose you everything you have, right? Even a minor fender bender that consigns you to the side of the road for a couple days, that could be a setback enough. But especially if your car is stolen, or your car is damaged, or like vandalized or something like that, or, someone T-bones you or something like that, everything you have is just immediately gone, okay? That's one of the big problems. that I think a lot of people don't think about because maybe they've never been in a wreck or they don't look at that as a possibility. That's problem number one. Like even if you're minimizing your expenditures, you are in a position where it's much easier to lose much, much more. Okay. Thing number two is one of the things you have to have when you're living a normal life is you need a lot of space. Okay, not just general space to like walk around or do stuff, but you need places to store tools, to store things that you're not using every day or every week or maybe every month or maybe even every year. You want space, okay? And you might not need a lot of space. You might be able to live a very full life on a quarter of an acre or maybe even less, maybe an eighth of an acre, something like that. But you are going to need some space to store stuff. You're going to want to have a shed. You're going to want to have something to, put the things you're not using in. And if you have some kind of mobile living, everything you have, like everything you own, and I've known people who live mobily, but the thing is everything they have has to be some kind of mobile equivalent, and they can never have the best stuff. If you want to do something basic with basic tools, it's just not going to happen. That's not the kind of thing, if you're just contemplating this lifestyle, you're not really thinking about it that often, but that is going to be a big problem. Like there's a huge swath of things you're not going to be able to do because you can't have a place, you don't have a tool shed, or there's so many things that need, if you want a saw or something that needs a lot of power, that's sort of hard to, I mean, everything becomes more difficult, right? If you're legitimately trying to live remotely, especially if you're living out of a car. Now, campers will often have a little bit more room, but still nowhere near enough, what you need. And that also means you won't be able to do stuff like, growing stuff or holding animals. I don't hold animals, although I probably should. I have enough land for it. But, there are just all these kind of things that you can't do that you should be able to do, okay? And last and not least, like this might sound like a superficial thing, and I'm all for people being, eccentric or something like that. But realistically speaking, van life is weird. People make it look good on YouTube when they're like, oh man, here's me and my wife and we have van life and we're traveling the country. Wow, that sounds like very exotic. But in real life, like, okay, even if you have, this actually applies to like tiny houses too, which, I fully recommend. Tiny houses are kind of a meme as well. You should, if you want a small house, get a small house. Don't get like one of these tiny houses where everything is like, oh, let me do it in 40 by 40 and like, it's not actually bolted to the ground. Don't do that stuff. And the reason I say this and, of campers is like, it's hard to have normal friends. It's hard to have like, what are you going to do? Have someone over in your camper? It's just not, it's going to be awkward. And even in a tiny house, even in a tiny home where you're like showing people, oh, wow, this is how we store this. Wow, it's so creative and blah, blah, blah. The thing is, when you have someone over, the whole spiel will be you showing them your house that is actually very uncomfortable to like live and visit in and stuff like that. Now, the only exception would be if you have your house on some, large plot of land where you can do stuff outside. But at that point, you might as well just have, a slightly bigger house or, in the case of a camper, like, I mean, if you're moving around from place to place, it's sort of weird to just have people at the camping lot you're staying at. So I think, although, like, I understand the principles of people who want to live this kind of lifestyle, and I did when I was a kid, when you really think it through and you really, like, experiment with it, and there was a period, I was never, like, homeless, but, there were times where I was visiting a town, and I'd be like, I'll just stay in my car, and I'll see how that goes. And it's always more expensive than you think, especially if you want to park legally. You have to, either you have to pay or you have to go to, some certain place. And like, it's just kind of a pain. Like, there are going to be a lot of costs you don't realize. And of course, you're paying for gas, massive amounts of gas, because you're dragging around everything you own in your camper or whatever. You can say, oh, I'll just, unhook it, or I'll have another car or something. And there are just so many things to think through. So I think a lot of people, they see people on YouTube living camping, kind of a camping life, or like even tiny homes, as I mentioned. Like, I think they're kind of, tiny homes are less bad because you can have like space and stuff and you can do a lot of kind of normal stuff. It's just hard to have people over, have people visiting, stay with you, stuff like that. So, those are my thoughts. That's why I think, your priority should really be having land, a good amount of land, maybe a couple acres, but like you could definitely survive on less than 1 acre, so long as it's, you've got some breathing room. And if you're short on cash, if you're like a young kid, even college age, and I'm talking really short on cash, like you don't have anything, contemplate going in with your friends to buying land or something like that you can all use, or buying an old house, living in there just to save money and stuff like that. That would be my actual recommendation. And I will tell you, once you're an adult and you're more financially independent and stuff like that, you will start thinking about, well, I could probably own multiple properties. And, if you're willing to wait and willing to look for good deals, then things become a lot easier. And so your priority now, if you're young, should be, let me put myself in a position where I don't have to spend that much, and I have a pretty stable place where, I have a little bit of breathing room if I want to work on something, but, that's about it. But I will say, just as one extra addendum, I have known a couple guys, I've never done this, I have known a couple guys who have been voluntarily homeless, in the sense that, like, they're working in a job in another city, and, they don't have a wife or anything, so they're like, okay, I'm working 10 hours a day, I am just going to live in my car, and do something like that. And if you feel open to that, as long as you're not, shackled like a wagey to that job forever, you're just doing it because I can make a lot of money here, and then a couple months I'll do something else, that is an option. But that is not something, obviously, you want to live in, or make a habit. But anyway, so that's my feelings about remote, mobile living. It is sort of a meme, but, and don't have that as a goal. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, that's it.
Welcome back to my channel. So this is a continuation of my how-to guide in applying minimalism in your life, taking the meaning of minimalism to a deeper level, a more meaningful level. So today we're talking about minimalism and travel. Now, before I launch into this video, I've got 2 things to quickly check with you. Number 1, have you subscribed to my channel? If not, do so right now, immediately. And secondly, have you switched on that notification bell? Make sure it's switched on, because that means the moment I've uploaded a fresh new video made with love, especially for you, you know all about it. All right, let's talk about travel and minimalism. So for the last couple of years, I have found myself traveling a lot more, whether it be for work or for pleasure. And it's kind of funny because it's really timed in with minimalism. And having a minimalistic life, I've had more money to invest in travel and adventure. Making sure I travel and get the most out of travel has really taken on a new level of minimalism in my life. When it comes to going on holidays or traveling, we need to stop and ask ourselves, what is the purpose behind this? Is it to relax and recharge our batteries and restore our sense of well-being? Or is it to explore, to travel, to learn new things? We need to stop and take the time and set the intention and purpose of our travel so that we get the maximum out of our time. So my first step when it comes to incorporating minimalism and travel, and that is to work out your purpose. What are the key things that you want to achieve and do and experience from getting away on your next adventure? By stopping and taking the time, you give yourself a sense of direction and clarity. And you're more likely to open yourself up to all the amazing things that come from getting out of your hometown or state or country and seeing the amazing new things that exist around us in the world. Step number 2 is to plan mindfully. Now that you know the purpose behind the trip or the adventure that you're about to go on, stop and take the time to do your research. Make sure you avoid just going along with the flow of what society says you should do. You don't necessarily have to go and see the Mona Lisa. You don't necessarily have to go and see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Do what is right for you and your value system so that you get the most out of your trip. The third thing to do is to pack lightly. Easier said than done, but it takes practice, and each time you do it better. So my recommendation is to put everything that you want to pack neatly laid out on your bed so you can see exactly what you're planning to take, and it gives you that opportunity to stop, reflect, and maybe even take a few things away that you don't need. Now, when you plan and prepare, you do it properly. You pick clothes that are versatile, clothes that you can wear at nighttime and can also be changed into an evening outfit by simply changing a pair of shoes or switching over from a day handbag to an evening clutch. Pack your suitcase mindfully. Also, on that note of fashion, pack versatile neutrals, black and whites that go together, pinks and blues that go together. Avoid large colored patterns if they do not reflect your style and taste. When we pack lightly, we are so much more dynamic. It's so much easier to run to catch your flight. Catching public transport is so much easier, and also you're not exhausted and weighed down carrying around, lugging around heavy suitcases. And when you get to your destination and when you get home, it is so much easier and quicker to unpack your stuff. So pack lightly. And other little things like check the weather. Is it going to be raining? Should you pack your raincoat? Or is it going to be really hot and you just need to be packing really light, breathable clothes? Invest your time in planning and preparing for your holiday. Now, on that note of packing lightly, when you pack lightly, you're also helping the environment. With a plane that is a little bit lighter, it uses less fuel, which means we're doing less damage to the environment. And on that note of the environment, if possible, when possible, pay for those carbon offsets. It's only $1 or $2, but that money is really important because it goes towards future environmental projects such as planting trees. We all have the responsibility and the love and care of the place that we live in. We need to take care of our world. So invest in those carbon credits. It's really important. Also use this as a bit of time to breathe. I know myself, when it comes to going on holidays, I barely wear any makeup. I just take the absolute essentials. I take my capsule makeup collection and that is it. I don't need to take lots of different blushes and lots of different mascaras. I keep it really simple, and sometimes I don't wear any makeup at all. Now, another little thing that I like to do, which isn't necessarily minimalist, but it's more about zero waste, and that is to always pack a water bottle. Not only will this help you save you money because you're not buying bottles of water in cafes as you walk around seeing various tourist destinations, you've always got a bottle on the go, but it reduces your impact on the environment because you're not buying plastic bottles anymore. Next tip is to take your own toiletries. Again, not necessarily minimalistic, but about the environment. When you take your own toiletries, you reduce the landfill. So many times we go to a hotel, we use only a quarter of the soap or a quarter of the shampoo and conditioner, and then we leave the hotel and leave them there. That bottle, even though it's barely been used, gets thrown away into landfill. That block of soap that was used once or twice again gets wasted. Do one or two things. Pack your own toiletries, your own shampoos and conditioners and body wash, or simply take those toiletries home with you and use them up. The next thing is your hotel. Think about the small guys. As much as I love my large hotel chains, especially when you stay with them on a loyalty basis, you get upgrades, you get free breakfast, you get late checkouts, but it's also really important to think about the little guys. Consider Airbnb, consider couch surfing, support the small guys. And if you're staying in a large hotel, get out of the hotel. When it comes to eating breakfast or lunch or dinner, you know what? Go and explore the local cafes and restaurants around you. Be an adventurer. And when you do this, you get to see what it's like to live in that country. You step out of the comfort zone of being a tourist and start to see what it's like for the community in that city, in that town, in that culture, in that country. It is much more enriching into your life. And you know what? This actually goes beyond food. You could go to the local markets, you could go to the flea markets, you could go to the farmers markets. You never know what you might discover. My next tip when it comes to minimalism and travel, and that is to simply slow down. The whole point of going on holiday and getting away is to have a break away from it all. Make sure you stay up late doing fun things. Make sure you sleep in. Catch up on that book you've been dying to read, and make sure you watch a movie on the plane. Make the most of this time to fill your own bucket. That's Rocco's favorite saying. And then finally, when it comes to gifts, let's be honest, we don't need to buy ourselves any more souvenirs or gifts for other people. The people who love us want us to come home safely and with some fantastic stories. So instead of feeling the pressure to buy lots of things because you feel guilty because you've been away, why don't you just bring home some fantastic stories, memories, and photos and sit down and spend the time to show them and share your experience with them. If you really want, you can just buy them maybe one small present, but make sure it's a meaningful present, something that you know that they will love, value, use, and appreciate. Don't feel the pressure to buy souvenirs and just simple stuff in your life that's going to clutter your home. Now, my final note for travel and minimalism, and that is when you unpack your stuff, don't just quickly unpack it and get your suitcase away. Stop and take the time to actually learn and grow. What things did you pack that you didn't end up actually touching at all? Make sure you're mindful in doing this, because next time when it comes to going on your next holiday, you'll remember that you packed too many swimmers, or you'll remember that you packed too many pairs of sneakers that you simply didn't need. Stop and take the time to learn, because each time you do this, you get better and better at packing lighter. And there is something so rewarding and satisfying as you walk through an airport or a bus stop or a train station and you're light and you're able to move freely, move quickly, and live more in the moment. Now, I really hope you've enjoyed this video around travel and minimalism. I have so many more videos as part of this very special playlist, so make sure you check out these videos over here, so you can learn more about how to take your love and passion, which I'm sure is growing every day like mine is, around minimalism, and allow it to penetrate deeper into your life. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do, and make sure that bell is switched on so you are notified as to when I produce new content made for you with love. All right, everyone, ciao for now, and I'll see you next week.
It's somewhere between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. Depending on my workout schedule and the projects that I'm working on, I might have to be up a little earlier. I told somebody I'd get coffee with them today, but I'm not sure that's gonna happen. It's a little rainy, and I'm also just not sure I'm gonna go. Not because I don't want to, but making plans and canceling is sometimes nice. I know you can't tell, but I just added 4 new black shirts to my wardrobe. I'm kind of excited about it. It's pretty much all I wear. Recently I started working in a new office. Honestly, it's pretty nice, and there's tons of free coffee. Time to get to work. This is where I do all of my editing, and drink a lot of coffee. More than I probably should. On a typical day, I'll edit some photos for Instagram, put together some ideas for new videos, just work. If I didn't do it in the morning, then I like to get a workout in the afternoon, around 1 p.m. when I stop drinking coffee. Yes, coffee is my breakfast. It's the fuel that gets me through my day and confident that I can accomplish everything on my to-do list. Not to mention it's a great pre-workout and an easy way to cut calories. Hey, I'm not doing all this cardio for nothing. Post-workout, I like to have a protein shake or a chicken broccoli and rice meal. I prep all of this weekly. I hear a lot of people say that eating healthy is way too expensive. They're wrong. I have a way of spending only $50 a week on groceries while eating nearly zero sugar. However, I will say if you are someone who needs variety in your diet, this is not the way for you. I've eaten the same meal every day the last year. Now, that's not to say that I haven't eaten other things. I've had my fair share of donuts, pizza, and burgers, and flexibility is important in your diet. But in some form or variation, I have eaten this exact meal every day. At this point, you might have realized that I don't own any furniture aside from my bed and my ottoman. This is an entirely different story for an entirely different day. But go binge watch Eamon and Beck for about a month and see if you have any furniture afterwards. Okay, so little news. During the making of this video, well, I don't have a bed.
Alright, hey guys, this is Chad, and as some of you might know, I'm going to Japan in just a couple days. And I've been spending the past few hours packing my bag for an international trip, basically. And there's always some questions when people go on international trips. You know, how do you pack your bag? How do you know what to bring? And what do you put it all in, right? So I actually have one big backpack that I took to Europe last year, and I'm going to be taking it to Japan this year. And this trip is about 21 days long, give or take a couple days, and everything I need for that set amount of time is in this one bag. And this bag is an Osprey Porter 30, so it's not too big really. I actually use it as a personal item when I fly on an airplane. This time we're flying United, and so their personal item can be 17 by 10 by 9 inches. I believe those dimensions are correct for a personal item. Nice thing about personal items are they're free, so you don't have to pay for a carry-on, you don't have to pay to check your bag. And I personally don't even like checking my bag because the airline can lose it. So this comes onto the airplane with me, and everything is in here that I need for 20 some days in Japan. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna unpack this bag, or rather I'm going to go unpack it, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you guys how I pack everything in here strategically. Zip it all shut, and I'm ready to go. Let's check it out. Alright, so on the ground right here, this is everything I'm taking with me. All of this stuff was in that backpack just a minute ago, you guys saw. So I'm going to go through every single item on this floor, and you guys will be able to see everything I'm taking with me to Japan. So let's go through them. So obviously the first and most important thing that I'm taking are clothes, and this is really where it's really going to be different. You know, if you are a girl or a boy. I am a guy, obviously, so I am not taking too many clothes. There is going to be a point where we can do laundry at one of the Airbnbs that we are staying at. So it looks like I'm going to be taking 6 shirts plus the one I have on, so that's 7. And these are all right here. And so this next packing cube, which I highly recommend. Packing cubes are really, really nice to organize your clothes, make sure they don't get everywhere, especially if you're taking only a backpack. This has pairs of shorts, and I think I'm taking 5 or 6. And those are all, like, you know, nicely packed in here and everything, so we can stack those on top of each other. Okay, this smaller bag has underwear and socks. You know, I think it's like 7 or 8 pairs of underwear and like 10 or 11 pairs of socks. Like I said, we will do laundry at some point, I promise. And then this is like a rain jacket. It's like a very, very lightweight waterproof jacket. It's really hot in Japan, but it also rains a lot during July, so that's why I'm taking this. So that's going to be very nice to have, very essential. And the next most essential thing to take on a trip overseas is obviously your toiletries. And here I have toothpaste, soap, lotion, body wash, shampoo, sunscreen, mouthwash, and a toothbrush, and deodorant, and hair product. So those are obviously really important. And if you're going to be taking liquids on a trip, on an airplane in general, you're going to need to put them in a quart bag, and you're going to need to make sure that all the liquids are either 3 ounces or below. And, you know, you can obviously go to like a travel section, like a Target or a Walmart, which is what I did. And, I mean, I'm going to try to make these things last for, you know, 20 some days, but if they don't, I mean, there's always convenience stores in Japan where you can buy stuff. So yeah, so that's going to be it for my toiletries. And so other things kind of relating to that is a first aid kit, and I highly recommend bringing something like this. You know, it has a couple Band-Aids, has some gauze, has some, like, you know, alcohol, whatever. So that can be pretty important. Another thing we have in here is tissues, earplugs, and a sleep mask for the plane. And then we also have a fast drying towel. This probably isn't completely necessary, however, you never know when you're going to need a towel, especially when you're going to Japan and it rains a lot. You could get wet. You can always hang it up and it dries pretty fast. And I actually got that at like a sporting goods store, so that's always something that you could consider. And another thing that I would definitely bring along is extra quart-sized bags, which I have right over there. Those are going to be really important, especially when you're dealing with all of your toiletries and sometimes your bags get ripped. It's always good to bring extra of certain things. Alright, so moving on to electronics, and obviously since you know, I do the whole YouTube thing and run a channel, and I'm obviously bringing this nice new camera to Japan and everything, I'm going to have a lot of electronics. And so I know I said I'm bringing one bag, I'm actually bringing 2 bags, and this bag actually goes inside of that bag. And so if you want me to briefly explain, the flight to Japan allows me to have a personal item, which will be this, and will allow me to have a carry-on for free, which will be that. However, I have to fly to Los Angeles first, where I only get a free personal item, so I'm putting this inside of that. So once I get to Los Angeles, I will be able to take this outside of that, and it will be a hell of a lot easier. But for now, this is going inside here, and it still fits. So inside here, I will show you guys what I have as far as camera equipment goes. So I'm not going to take everything out just because like it's sort of a pain to take everything out since a lot of these things are little things. But this is a brand new camera lens that I just bought like yesterday. I haven't even used it yet, but I'm pretty excited to use it. I think it's definitely going to be nice to have this in my lineup for when I go to Japan. Obviously, it's a 45 to 150 lens, so that's going to be really, really nice to have. So that's in there. In here, it's kind of hard to see, but there's like a GoPro chest mount and a wrist mount, so just in case I'm going to be able to use those. In here I have 2 battery chargers for my camera, and I have a portable battery for my phone, which is going to be really important, and my phone charger cables in there also, and a bunch of other like randomly like assorted cords and things. So, and then in here I have 5 backup batteries for my camera. That's going to be really important. Obviously, you know, if battery dies, you're going to need some more. If you ever bring a camera to like an international trip, I definitely recommend investing in some more batteries. That's going to be really important. This is actually a really nice backpack. It's a single strap, so I'll just wear it over my shoulder. And it's more of like a day pack too. So, if we're staying at a hotel, I'll just leave my regular backpack there. And then I'll just take this with me into the parks. And so going on with electronics, inside of this laptop case is my laptop with headphones. That's going to be important for flights and editing videos, of course. And right next to it we have a 2 terabyte external hard drive, which I'll be putting all of my footage on and everything throughout the entire trip. One thing I could not recommend enough, if you go on any kind of trip anywhere where you're flying or you're staying in a lot of hotels, bring a power strip. This thing saved our lives in Europe, and you can ask Taylor anytime you see him in a park that, this saved his life and that he owes me big time for bringing this, because a lot of the hotels you stay in, they don't have a lot of places to plug in at. And relating to that, one thing you should always look into before you go anywhere or to any different country is if you're going to need some kind of power converter. So this is a power converter that works in like a bunch of different countries. There's an option for Japan on here, which you can probably see right there. Yep, it says Japan. There's that. Those are going to be really important for charging everything that we're bringing. I mean, we're bringing a lot of electronics, so this is this was like $10, so you could obviously get something that's like a bit more quality, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. So I have a wireless mouse for my laptop and my laptop charger. These are some other things that were in the camera bag, like my GoPro. SD cards are really important. I just bought a new one. Some more charging equipment. One thing I would also recommend, and this is kind of going out of the electronics and into documents, this is a passport wallet, so it kind of folds over like that, and your passport conveniently is hidden in this pocket. And this is a SUI card for Tokyo. But this is like a really nice kind of wallet. It has everything all in one. My passport never leaves my side, and your passport should never leave your side either if you're in a foreign country. That's really important to have your passport on you at all times so you never ever lose it. One last thing pertaining to documents, and this is just like a list of everything. Also, sunglasses are important. Last thing, besides my shoes, are any kind of documents that you might need to bring. Everything in here is hotel information, plane information, any other kind of information we could possibly need. Our rail passes are in there. Any kind of emergency contact information, whatever. That's all in there, and that goes into my backpack also. So guys, that is basically everything that goes into the backpack, all of this stuff. So let's go ahead and put it all in. So the first thing we can just go ahead and slide in is this laptop, and like I said, the backpack has a convenient laptop slot where it just slides right in. Now that my laptop's in there, the next thing I'm going to do is put in my camera bag, and like I said, this is kind of optional per se. Like, this isn't going to be in there when I actually fly to Japan, but it's going to be in there when I go to Los Angeles. So this just kind of goes in here like that, and it just shove it in at the bottom there. And then the next thing I'm going to put in is my towel, fast drying towel. Just put that in right there. Put it in there, so it kind of goes in like that. Alright, perfect. So this backpack actually has some side pockets, as you can see right here and right here. What I'm going to put in there is my power strip and my external hard drive, and a couple other smaller items will go in here. Okay, so I put my power strip in here, and then there's my external hard drive and some other, like the first aid kit that goes in there. So then we just go ahead and zip that up, so that's good to go. And like I said, you should always bring extra quart bags. You never know what you might need them for. Even bring bigger Ziploc bags. You never know. You can always put dirty clothes in them, whatever, right? So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the socks and underwear bag, because it's going to fit perfectly snug right there. Okay, perfect. And then on top, I'm going to put all the other clothes. Okay, so there you go. There's all the clothes and everything in there too. And you're just going to flip this over. Okay, and smack it down. You know, a lot of this has to do with compression. So, I mean, obviously don't pack anything that's going to break, right? I mean, you don't want to do that. You're going to be compressing a lot of stuff into a small area. So, I mean, good thing a lot of this is just clothes, right? So, now we're just going to zip this up like this. Okay, so that main compartment is closed. Next thing we're going to put in is our toiletries, charger, and other small things. So always put my liquids in an easy to access pocket, so when you're going through TSA you can just pull them right out, put them in the bin. Same with the laptop, it just comes right out there. Just, pull them out, put them in the bin, easy, no problems whatsoever when you go through airport security. So yep, you just zip that up. And then in the last pocket, what we'll put is anything left over, which is going to be, this stuff, that'll go in that pocket, whatever, and then the mouse, and that's basically it. I mean, obviously we have, the jacket, which I'll just wear, and yeah, one thing I forgot is the camera, obviously. The camera just goes around my neck. In addition to your personal item, you can just carry the camera in also. That's what it says on their website, so that's perfect. There we go. Alright guys, everything's in. The nice thing about this backpack is it has these compression straps, and you just clip them shut, right? And I can't really do it with one hand, but I have this one that's already kind of pre-made, like a cooking show. So you just pull it like this, and it compresses your backpack, which is really nice. And it will, it's a lot easier to just get it down to like a certain size. Alright guys, so that's how I packed my bag. I know some people might think I'm crazy, but I know that I'm saving money by just having this as a personal item and being able to carry it on the plane for free. Like I said, I don't like checking bags. So, and this also makes it nice to where when I'm in Japan or Europe or wherever I'm going, I have only one thing to worry about, and it's this bag. And I carry it around everywhere. It's really easy to put on my back. It's very comfortable. It's very dependable, and it doesn't break. After using it for 3 weeks in Europe, I had no tears, no wear really, except right here on the front, but that's not really a big deal. Yeah, it's got some nice straps on the back with some nice connections for support, obviously. You got the laptop area here and all the other pockets and everything. So overall, this is a great travel backpack, and I actually really recommend Osprey. It's a great brand for traveling, and this backpack ran about $120, so I would definitely recommend it. It's a bit easier to maneuver around than like a suitcase or something. So that's going to do it for this how to pack your bag for an international trip. I'm really excited to go to Japan, guys. And this is going to be the first kind of vlog thing in the however many part series this is going to be. Tomorrow after work, I'm going to go pick up Sean, and we're going to get some of our last things together. We're going to go to Kings Island, I think, one last time. It's kind of a tradition before we go on international trips. We go to Kings Island, and then we're going to drive over to the airport, and we're going to stay at a hotel near the airport because our flight takes off at 6 in the morning to San Francisco, and we have a layover for an hour, and then we fly to Los Angeles, where we're going to Knott's Berry Farm on the 4th of July. So I'm really excited about that. I haven't been there for like 2 years. So yeah, catch us tomorrow.
Let me show you how to pack as a digital nomad, what you need to take and how to get it all in one rucksack. What I'm going to do is you're going to see me packing various things. I'm going to pack 3 t-shirts, a pair of jeans, pair of shorts, 5 pairs of underpants, 5 pairs of socks, and all of the technology you're about to see me go through and explain. You can easily travel almost anywhere for at least a week or 2 without needing much more than just a simple rucksack and these items. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Firstly, I've got my iPod. I like to use an iPod Nano just because it's easy to sync it, and it's fairly tough as well if you have a screen protector and a case on it like I do. Then what I take is just a pair of standard headphones. I like to go with ones that are stereo and noise cancelling, just because they have a better sound quality and generally they're nicer to use. So then we've got the phone. This is the phone I use. It's also the phone I use for my DJI Spark drone when I want to record footage for that. Then we've got a wallet. I always take this wallet with me because it's the smallest one I have and it fits really comfortably in a pair of skinny jeans, for example, without taking up too much room. I then have a solar powered power pack. Now this is actually really useful because you can not only charge it from the sun but also through a micro USB cable. It's got 3 outputs as well, so you can charge all your devices at the same time. I've also got this smaller battery pack by a company called Kit, which is just a useful little power pack just for taking on the go. It's very lightweight and it has a little torch as well. Then we've got a inflatable travel pillow. This is absolutely essential, especially if you're going on long haul flights or in economy. If you've been there before, it's uncomfortable, so bring your travel pillow. Next we've got the waterproof case that I use for the camera that I'm recording this video with, which is a Cam Park. It's not a GoPro. Then we've got the card reader here just to look at the footage from the videos or transfer the footage to the laptop if I need to. The laptop I'm using here, which is the one I take traveling, is the MacBook. Now, I love this because it's so small and lightweight. I've got a case on it as well, obviously, just to protect it. Next, we've got the DJI Spark drone. I don't know what I'd do without this. This is my favourite drone that I own. The footage you can get from this drone is incredible. You can fit up to 3 batteries in there, 1 in the drone, 2 and 1 either side, as well as some spare propellers, and if you need to, you can fit the card reader in there as well. Then you've also got the DJI Spark controller, intelligent flight battery charger. So this rucksack has this really awesome feature where you can put a hydration bladder inside the cool box section of it like this. Alright, so now we're going to look at the clothing. For a digital nomad, I would suggest not taking more than you need, obviously. So I like to take 1 pair of jeans, pair of shorts, 5 pairs of underpants, 5 pairs of socks, 3 t-shirts, and then obviously I wear the heaviest outfit on the plane. So let's get it all in the bag. So most of the useful technology went in the front compartment, the things I'm going to use the most often. Then we've got the travel pillow in the top section of the rucksack, and then everything else in the secondary compartment here, the laptop and the drone and everything like that. So now we pack the clothes. So I thought I'd speed this up because, to be honest, it's quite boring. But the general gist of this is you want to roll your clothes into as tight a bundle as possible. This way they won't crease and you can fit more in. You notice how I'm really pressing down on them, and they all sort of fit nicely in just one compartment of the rucksack there. So next thing, zip it all up, tighten the straps, and it's pretty much ready to go. It's heavy, but it works. Now you'll notice that this was done with a full 1 litre of water in the travel bladder. So without that you could fit more in and it will be lighter.
Traveling in South Korea, in Seoul, and in Jeju Island for about a month. And I was traveling with just a backpack. 2 t-shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of underwear, a laptop and a camera, a toothbrush. The essentials. Just a backpack for a month. And I was never missing anything. I had everything I needed the whole time. I felt super light, super mobile, and just so free. It's so liberating to travel that way. I highly recommend it if you've never done that. Just traveling with a backpack, no carry-on, your hands free all the time. It's amazing. Then I got back here to Chiang Mai, where I have an apartment where I keep some things, and I look around and I'm just surrounded by all this stuff that I didn't even think about, need, or use for over a month, and I'm wondering, what am I doing with all this stuff? I'm making the newbie minimalist mistakes. And those mistakes are: 1, keeping things just in case, backups of backups, and oh, maybe I'll go snowboarding this year, sorts of things. And number 2, keeping things that just don't really excite or inspire you anymore. Why would you keep things that don't excite or inspire you anymore when you could give them away or donate them to someone who would really be thrilled to have them? So I got home, I looked at all this stuff, and I wasn't gonna live my life surrounded by these items that I didn't need, I didn't want, I wasn't excited by. So immediately I packed everything up and prepared to give them all away. I have a bag of clothes, I have 2 pairs of old and new shoes, and I have a green screen and some lights and things when I thought I was gonna be like a green screen video kind of guy. All the stuff that I don't want around, don't need, I'm gonna give it all away. I already feel better just by having it packed up and ready to go and out of my living space. And I argue that you would too. So the easiest thing that you can try this out on is probably clothes. I would guess you have at least a few outfits that don't inspire you, don't fit you perfectly anymore, don't excite you, that you really wouldn't mind if you didn't have anymore. Am I right? Something in your closet you haven't worn in a while, something that you'd be willing to give away. So that's my challenge to you, is to get a bag, a decent sized bag, a plastic bag or paper bag or something, and fill it up with stuff that you're willing to give away. Not sell, not put on eBay, not put on Craigslist, not sell to a friend, just literally give it away. It's really easy to do with clothes and shoes, really, really easy to do, I think. Can you do it? Can you fill up a bag of stuff and just give it away and let it find a better owner, someone who will appreciate it more, somewhere where it'll be more enjoyed, more utilized? Can you do that? Because I'd argue that you'd probably feel a lot lighter, and you'd feel a lot freer, you'd feel more mobile, and you'd feel less attached to things. That's my challenge to you. Can you fill a bag and give it all away?
I want to talk about hard work. Many of us have grown up thinking that the key to success is working hard. But I've been thinking about this for a while, and I don't think that's the case at all. Hard work implies stress. You go to work, you stress out, you do so many things at once, you worry all the time. That's not sustainable, I don't think. And it's certainly not something I'd want to do. I don't want to live like that. I think it's better, instead of working hard, to just work and find a way to evolve your work so that you eventually like what you do. So you go to work, you work, but if there's something that you don't want to do, you try to change the work you do so that eventually you do something that you enjoy, and then because of this, you're able to work more, and because you're able to work more, you're able to save more. That's the logic, I think. I think we should, instead of working hard, focus on trying to cut costs. There are some really big costs that many people face. For example, the cost of children, the cost of going out. Transport is very expensive. Focus on these big costs and cut them, and your standard of living will probably not go down too much. You'll probably still be happy even if you live a minimalist life, and you're able to invest a lot, and then you're able to live off dividends quite easily, and then you can spend the rest of your life in semi-retirement working, but just not working very hard. I think this is the way to go. I don't think there's a need to work very hard at all. Some people tell me that it's important not to cut costs too much, that you have to spend money to make money. And this is true if you're spending money to run a business, or if you're spending money because it's, work-related spending. But if you're just going to spend money on things like, going out on dates and going on holidays, then this doesn't have anything to do with making money at all. And I actually think that, if you're a young man, you've just come out of university and you've got a job, you're actually better off saving hard than working hard, because when you work hard, it can be quite degrading, all the conformity that you have to do in the workplace. There is a little bit of ass kissing that you have to do. It's just the way it is, and for some people it comes naturally to them, and they like to do that sort of thing, and they're good at it, and that's fine. But it doesn't come naturally to most people, and not only that, but as you earn more, you get taxed more. So you put in effort to increase your income, but then you're taxed more. So that effort is not really rewarded that greatly compared to if you focused on cutting your costs. For example, if you just never go out on a date and spend your free time learning to code, or even watching Netflix or YouTube, then the amount of money you save for the effort is quite large compared to putting that same amount of effort into work, stressing out and getting a small pay increase, but also increasing your workload significantly and then getting taxed more. So, I just don't think the bang for your buck is there. I think, not that there's anything wrong with improving your skills and getting a promotion, but you have to think about the bang for your buck, where you're going to get the low-hanging fruit in terms of the most gains for the minimum amount of effort.
tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be outdoors, forever free. You and me, meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. free. I'm just sitting here, I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together, it's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell